At yesterday's meeting, the Newcastle City Council and the Hunter Development Board were the only ones to put forward submissions. The others came unprepared, even those who had received the confidential telex from the government. And so today, staff at Hunter Region Councils were busy preparing submissions which have to be in tomorrow. And because of the hasty deadline placed on the submissions, elected council members have had little to do with them. They've had to leave it in the hands of council officers. Lake Macquarie Council must be the only exception. It was able to talk about its submission at a scheduled meeting last night. The list it's come up with includes sewerage works on the western side of the lake, work on the Swansea Bridge, the Charlestown bypass, and other major road projects. Lake Macquarie Mayor Alderman Pasterfield is annoyed with the way the government has rushed councils.
The fact that the notice was short should be drawn to the attention of the Commonwealth, and for whatever their reasons were for making haste, I don't know. But nevertheless, I think the important thing is to indicate that a bit more time was necessary.
Alderman Pasterfield's sentiments must be shared by other councils who have not had the opportunity that Lake Macquarie has to talk out a list of priorities. And to give you some idea of how well organised yesterday's meeting was, councils such as Singleton sent down delegates to represent the council who were in no way qualified to talk about capital works funding requirements. And there were other councils like Port Stephens who weren't invited at all and received an apology over the phone from the Premier's department. All things considered, how seriously then can councils in our region treat the government's requests?
We tend to wonder how serious the government are in the light of the fact that some councils were not even notified of the meeting that was to take place yesterday. Notification was to go out supposedly on Friday. We were not aware of it until yesterday afternoon. We are fortunate in the fact that we have a major project that we can put forward immediately, which is Main Road 518.
But in the hope that more money will become available to this region, the councils have made their submissions. And the acting Premier, Mr Ferguson, is expected to make a statement on the issue later this week.
The major reason for the transfer is the state of the playing surface of the International Sports Centre. KB United officials, whose decision it was entirely to shift the fixture to Adamstown, felt the move is justified because of the poor state of the ISC, owing largely to the amount of football played on it this year. So far, approximately 57 days football has been conducted at the International Sports Centre, usually with 3 games per day, and during those days' play, it has rained on nearly every occasion. 4 clubs use the ground as their home base: Central Charlestown, Waratah and the Katara Bears in Rugby League, not to mention the representative league fixtures played there, as well as KB United and their youth team. It is a credit to head curator Lance Jackman that the oval is still playable for league. KB United will return to the ISC, hopefully for their next home game.
Thanks, John. Good morning. It's overcast, 14 degrees in the city at the moment. Looks like more showers along the coast today. Winds blowing from the south at the moment, and the waves for the board rider this morning aren't looking all that good. Around the beaches this morning, we have waves from 1 to 1.2 metres, occasionally reaching 1.5 metres on some of the bigger sets. Unfortunately, the wind picking up strength very quickly and conditions becoming choppy, bumpy, and I don't think these waves will be too rideable for much longer this morning. If you're very keen on waves, you should have got them early, and it's very quickly becoming too late to get them. If you'd like to go for a swim, take care. There are still strong sweeps and rips at all city beaches, and the waves for the board riders today aren't looking too promising at all. And now looking at the weather, the forecast reads morning fogs, A cool and cloudy day with some showers developing mainly on the coast. Light variable winds tending southeast to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, that's 10 to 30 kilometres per hour, and slight seas on a low swell. Newcastle expecting a top today of 17 degrees, 16 degrees for Scone. Low tide coming up at 11:58 this morning at 0.5 of a metre, with the following high tide at 6:35 this evening, 1.7 metres. And the outlook for Thursday, showers with southwest to southeasterly winds. Well, that's the story. Not too good for the board riders. Plenty of waves around. The swell has dropped quite a lot. Waves around 1.2 metres at most of the open beaches. The wind, unfortunately, has gone back on shore from the south. Conditions choppy, bumpy and messy. A little bit dangerous if you'd like to go for a swim. And weather-wise, a few showers still along the coast, a top of 17 degrees for Newcastle. Have a great day whatever you're doing. It's back to you, John.
The staggering total of sewerage works needed in the Hunter District Water Board's area by 1990 was revealed today in a report handed by the Minister for Water Resources, Mr William, to the Lake Macquarie Council, which is where most of the work is needed.
These funds you're trying to get
Major works listed are $50 million for sewerage west of the lake and $50 million for building 6 sewerage works, already up by $20 million from the figure quoted in April this year. However, while confirming the work is needed, Mr Whelan remained vague on the where and when of funding.
We'll take the money in any form, if it's wage pause money, if it's similar to the Red Scheme money, that's okay. If it's money on a dollar for dollar basis, we'd have to consider that. The Hunter Board would have to consider that with the Council as well. I'm not going to tie the money into coming from any one source as long as we have funds.
If you don't get federal funding, how much of that is likely to be funded by other means?
Depending upon the priorities, the Board, the Council will have to do it over a longer period, obviously.
Although the report released today didn't promise anything for the area, it was particularly welcomed by Mr Richard Pace, the member for Charlestown, who believes existing sewerage services should be amplified before new extensions are built.
And what we're allowing at present, if it doesn't go ahead, ribbon development on the edge of existing townships at nearly twice the cost of development with regard to all the infrastructure. Now, what I've asked for them is to consult with this council immediately and with Newcastle in relation to the ship to this document, where it's now spelled out in reasonably clear terms as to what the costings will be, and then work out the ones that we can go on with in the foreseeable future.
Good morning. We start with some America's Cup news firstly this morning, and Australia too has confirmed its early supremacy among the yachts seeking to challenge for the America's Cup. And of course the Americans have had it for well over 120 years now, and it's taking some getting. Today Australia defeated the other Australian hopeful, Challenge 12, in the elimination series on Rhode Island Sound, finishing 2 minutes and 8 seconds ahead. International and Australian motocross superstars will gather at the Twin Cities Speedway on Saturday night for the running of Supercross Grand National.
Today was the first of practice at the course that is just about ready for Saturday's big race. The course is of 29 jumps and of a length of some 650 metres. It has been built by promoter Alan Craig from 900 cubic metres of soil. Some of the top riders were first over the course. American Marty Motes was first, followed out by local rider Peter Carney and Sydney sider Vaughan Style. A couple of the jumps are extremely high, and the riders soar skywards even at practice speeds. Come Saturday, when the throttles are open, the action should be spectacular.
Another swimming world record was fallen, this time to a West German.
About 90 telephonists met at the Newcastle Workers' Club yesterday afternoon and listened to a stop-work meeting in Sydney by landline. During the 2-hour stoppage, all operator-connected calls in Newcastle were cut, an indication of what could happen in the future if certain agreements aren't reached. The plan by Telecom to reduce staff levels from 9,000 to 3,000 in the next 2 years will also affect Newcastle numbers. Telephone operators may consider industrial action in the future. But meantime, Newcastle operators and their counterparts nationwide have agreed to a series of work-to-rule regulations and will continue talks centred around a redundancy agreement.
The iron Carpentaria was towed into the port of Newcastle yesterday after spending 12 months idle in Sydney. The bulk carrier is here for a major engine removal to be carried out by the local engineering firm G.H. Varley Pty Limited. The vessel's existing gas turbine engine is to be replaced by 2 medium-speed diesel engines. A spokesman for BHP's fleet operations says the change will result in significant savings for the company. Work on the engine refitting will begin in August after the initial survey and maintenance work has been carried out. The project is expected to cost almost $6 million. It's believed that once the work is completed early next year, the iron Carpentaria will replace its sister ship Iron Curtis on the coastal coal and ore run. Metal industry shop stewards representing 8 unions attended the day-long talks held at the Newcastle Workers' Club. The meeting was called to discuss aspects of the economic accord, which was ratified at a special National Unions Conference held last February. The accord between the ALP and the ACTU covers the Labor Party's policies on wages and prices, working conditions, job creation and a range of other issues. Similar meetings have been held throughout the state in a bid to help shop stewards understand the main aspects of the accord. One of the main concerns of the metal unions is that the Labor government is not upholding the accord, which was agreed to before the March 5th election.
There have been a couple of instances already where we're disappointed in the government's response to a couple of key sectors in the accord, particularly the question of job protection and industry development. However, we plan to have further discussions with the government in Canberra the week after next, and hopefully we can iron those difficulties out.
Even the location of Newcastle's Paediatrics department presents something of a dilemma. It will be in the Martyrs New Med 2 when it's completed, but then may shift to Rankin Park if that hospital goes ahead. In the meantime, Professor Bolton and his staff occupy an old cottage in the hospital grounds. But that contrast, in a way, typifies a growing problem in childcare. Professor Bolton sees the appeal of high-tech medicine tending to overshadow the old family doctor approach, which often involves easing the parents' worries as much as curing the child.
Is it becoming more difficult, though, for the ordinary suburban doctor to spend the time necessary to talk things over with the family?
Well, I think there are very real practical difficulties in this, just because of pressure of the patients, the high cost of his own overheads, etc., and also against the background of his own training. Students do relatively little paediatrics, and in traditional schools there's rather little emphasis on what we call the psychosocial issues. That is, not just the signs of the disease and what drugs you use, but all the things that go on, the worries, the anxieties within the family, how people cope with anxieties. And this, of course, is terribly important amongst children. As every parent knows, having a sick child is one of the most anxiety-provoking, the most worrying things that can happen. And I think understanding those things is just terribly important, and being able, the doctor himself, being able to cope with that.
I think they're both very promising players. I'd like to see them get a chance of probably playing abroad, playing in Europe somewhere. It'd be interesting to see.
You'll be looking forward to a game of football, coming from 2 games a week to, what, 1 game in 3 weeks?
Well, that's right. You rushed me off the plane and I played my first game, and then I've had 3.5 weeks off. I can't believe this. You know, it's through no fault of my own, obviously. I mean, it seems to be a little bit of a league problem, but they got obviously got to get things like that sorted out. You can't sort of run a programme like that. But that doesn't matter now. That's behind us. And I think the only thing that's important to KB is that we start playing football. I'd like to see a good crowd there tomorrow, because I think we've got a lot to offer. The lads are very confident. They're playing well. Let's hope that Mick Channon can also play well, and we can win the game
and get that swinging arm going again. We haven't seen that too much yet.
No, we haven't seen. Well, we've only played 1 game. Like I say, let's hope that I can swing the arm. I mean, that's a trademark. It's copyright, by the way. If anyone else uses it, they've got to pay me a royalty.
Okay, you get a couple in the net tomorrow, and we'll pay you the royalties.
That's greatly. I hope so.
The main factor in today's match was the blustery wind. The local team managed to handle the tough conditions better and had gone to a commanding 2-0 lead at the break. As an indication of the role the wind played in the game, all 3 of Newcastle's goals were scored by defenders. Craig Mason with 1 and Peter Burke with 2, all from headers after corner kicks. Although Footscray hit the post with 1 shot, United were never in any danger of defeat. English star Mike Channon, a guest player with Newcastle, received plenty of attention from the Footscray defenders, but acquitted himself well. The final scoreline, Newcastle KB United 3, Footscray 0.
Thanks, John. Good morning. It's 4 degrees out here at the moment. Don't worry, I won't hold it against you for sending me out here. Not really. Ha ha ha. It's clear at the moment. The sun's just about to give us a little bit of warmth in about 3 hours' time. The wind's blowing offshore and there are plenty of waves around for the board riders. Gale force winds off the south coast of New South Wales have built a swell coming in from the southeast. We have waves around 1 to 1.2 metres here at Newcastle at all of the open beaches in town, a little bit smaller in the southern corners, and with this offshore wind, it's going to be a good day for the board riders. You'll just have to look around to find some good shaped waves. The waves should look a little better towards high tide later this morning and then later on this afternoon. I don't think there's any chance for the wind changing at the moment. It should be with us for the next couple of days or so. If you'd like to go for a swim, take care. Sweeps to the north and also some rips developing at all city beaches. Weather-wise, the forecast reads morning frost inland, and that's pretty well widespread right throughout New South Wales. Then a cool to cold day with some cloud, chiefly in the upper Hunter. Northwest to westerly winds at 15 to 20 knots at times, that's 30 to 40 kilometres per hour. Seas moderate offshore on a low swell. Newcastle heading for a top today of 15 degrees, a cool 12 degrees for Scone. High tide's coming up at 10 minutes to 10 this morning at 1.3 metres. The following low tide will be at 9 minutes past 3 this afternoon at 0.6 of a metre. Now the outlook for Tuesday, dry, cool and with westerly winds. Okay, well that's the story. A cold morning, 4 degrees to start the day. Dry, westerly winds, waves around 1 to 1.2 metres for the board riders, a top of 15 degrees for Newcastle. And don't worry, John, I really do not hold it against you that you're sitting in the warm studio and I'm standing out here in the cold morning wind. That's it.